to work with. But Greg's stuff is just phenomenal. But I think the melding was just, it worked. And it worked to a point that I'm going to share something else with you now. Next. Okay, so I'm the artist in residence out there. This is the first time they've ever done that. So this is why I think I'm out there. So if you're wondering what an artist in residence does, a lot of times I'm the first person that they're seeing this week. So I welcome people, but I'm also trying to show, about carving and subtractive art. And I talked with, like yesterday, I talked with Smith Academy when they were out there. There's 3 labs from PFW now. There's 3 more today, and they're all coming and looking at it. And then just family groups. There were some homeschool groups that came out. It's just a lot of fun. So I get to talk about my art, the Marsh, and how all that works together. So, I talk about, you need to go, and is this your first time on the Marsh, all that kind of stuff that everybody else does. I'm inspired because of what I'm doing out there. You can read it. Let's go to the next one, because it's really the most cool. Next slide. So I wouldn't let her see the program until I did it today. So yes, I'm the artist in residence, but there is a resident artist. And now that I'm out there, I realize that at least for a little while, there's 2 resident artists. There's a steward, a seasonal steward, who graduated about the same time my daughter started teaching at Columbus College of Art and Design. She's a graduate from there. And Allie and Rebecca and I are meeting tomorrow to kind of brainstorm about how art might fit into the future of Little River Wetlands Project. But Allie is, go ahead and turn red, I'm not going to look behind you. Allie is an incredible artist. She's one of my former students, but she discovered environmental science a little bit late in her academic career. So she continued with her art therapy, and then we shopped her off up to Mary Lee at Goshen College, and she got her master's in environmental education. And she, I think, is just incredible. She knows that. And I got to tell her parents that this weekend. But Allie made Allie made a coloring book. If you haven't seen it, it's amazing. Of the turtles of Eagle Marsh. And she's made a couple of other coloring books, and she's going to make some more. But as a surprise to her, when I came down, I'm carving 3 of the turtles from her book, in the poses from her book. And the first one that I'm starting with is the snapper. I've never carved a snapping turtle. I carved lots of turtles. Sure. You can be my, like
Vanna White.
Vanna White. There you go. This is the one, and this is as far as I'm going to take it here. Okay. Again, I explained I need clamps, I need other tools, but it'll actually have claws. It'll have nostrils. It'll have a little more of a beak to it. But this is, I think, anybody that's been ever around turtles knows that even from a distance, that's a snapping turtle. I'm doing a blandings turtle right now, which is the one that had not been seen in Indiana for about 100 years. And I just started it yesterday, so I brought it just so you can see where I'm going. It's a big block of walnut, so it doesn't look like much, but that's how far I can get in a day out there. So you go in there like, wow, these suckers are expensive. They take a long time, and I make a big mess. So the other one I'm going to do is a map turtle. When I get them all done, I've conned a second student into doing a collaboration. Since I said I've only done one. The map turtle only really looks cool if you can see the designs on it, and you'll never see that in just walnut. So Allie is going to paint it. And remember I said initially, I've already been asked to have them in Decatur. So Allie is going to collaborate with me on the Decatur sculpture tour for next time. So I think that's cool. Her parents think it's really cool because she's not been doing her art as much as she would like to, and maybe this will kind of force her into it. So that's one of the pictures, and Allie gets a big block of words.
That's okay.
But she's already done one of the murals here in Fort Wayne. That's out by the Hamlets on.
Ray and I live in the Hamlets.
Oh, do you?
And I hike, I walk almost every day by those murals. There's a bench there.
Yep.
And I sit on that bench.
It's cool.
It's
Yeah.
a stress reliever, and it's beautiful.
And
It
if you
is.
come by, you could carve Sam.
And that's another example of public art. And I'm a firm believer in public art. I think it's neat. It's a cultural thing. There can be a lot of interesting statements made through public art. But for me, what I want is people to smile. And when that happens, then I'm successful. So it truly is, that's the last slide, I think. But it is, isn't it?
No, I think you've got this one.
Oh, the important one.
Yeah.
I want to now introduce you to two people who are hiding in the back of the room. Amanda and Stephen are the general manager and assistant general manager, did I get it right? For Hampton Inn, which is right next door to us. And they've been my wonderful and gracious hosts. And I will tell you, I mean, I thought it was just really nice that they would help me, you know, be here. But when I first came in, the very first person I met was Stephen. And he and Victoria, you know, said, oh, we were expecting you. And they started talking about, like, my God, these people know me. Did they stalk me or what on Google? And Allie and Chelsea had been over to talk to me. What, do you have any extra pieces? Well, yeah, I brought a bunch of cutters. I don't even know how it's going to set up out there. And so they have been so gracious. They have 5 of my pieces behind the desk. And then they asked if I would bring a bio and a pic, and it's there too. And one thing you don't know, but if you ask that really wonderful lady who's now doing the breakfast, I got down there yesterday at 6, and there's a rush. I didn't believe there'd be a rush at 6. But I had the turtle in my hand because I was hoping that maybe Victoria was working. I don't know what her schedule is. And I wanted to show her this on the progress that I was making. She hadn't seen it at all yet. Another wonderful young lady. But she wasn't there. But a guy with somebody's restoration shirt, you know, he's working there and he was staying the night. He goes, are you that artist in residence? And he said it loud. And like 6 or 7 people turned and looked, you know, like, what's going on here? And they all started, oh yeah, the people behind the desk was telling us all about the art that's back there, and that they have an artist in residence that's staying with them, and that's you, and oh, let's see that. And it took me like 15 minutes to get out of there. What a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I personally want to thank you. My other sponsor that I have is Aqua Resources of Indiana. They also are neighbors of the Marsh and have been incredibly generous. But my goal really for the whole thing, and I've talked to lots of people about this, is that it sets a precedent. And I'd love to see, you know, them have at least another artist in residence every year, maybe more. But if you could be on the Marsh when people come out, it's just, I mean, it's always magical and mystical. But the art is, I think, something that's as important as the science, and as important perhaps as the history. But I see no reason why we can't meld all 3. So stay tuned. We'll see if I'm successful. Thank you guys so much for coming. I probably talked more than I was supposed to.
No, you're perfect.
My intent, I mean, I don't know what you guys decide. I can't believe that 2 important people took an hour off to come over here and see this. But, you know, I'm not going anywhere. The very next place I'm driving is directly to the Marsh. If you want to see more of this kind of stuff, I'm there all day today until about 4:30. I'll be there all day tomorrow till probably about 4. I've been asked by the University of St. Francis tomorrow. This is homecoming weekend, and they do their alum awards. And the Distinguished Alumni Award is going to 3 of my former students. If you've ever seen the logos around here of 7 Gen,
Yes.
that's my students. And they're all 3 being, and They tried for an A-lister to introduce him, and I don't think he was available. So but I'm surprised they don't know. You know, the director of alumni, who's also a former student. Everybody seems to be. Also, just as an aside, during Monarch Fest, during the first 20 minutes, there were 6 of my former students in my little booth area, okay? And they were from different generations. They didn't know each other. Some of them crossed. But they started talking, you know, to me and whatever, and they realized then that they were all alums and that they had taken trips. I used to lead trips to the Bahamas every year, and also to Grand Canyon, to the Appalachians, to Colorado, to the, you know, all over the country with students. And they all were starting to share their experience. And one of them said, "Doc, you got this many people here right now." And I've been putting on Facebook every day who visits. So there's already a bunch of them, of alums. And I said, and you missed 2 of them. They were here before you, and they're out here with their kids now. They said, well, you got to keep track of this. So I thought, well, that's actually a good idea, especially considering who it came from. But so I started writing the names down. And there were 52 alums that came and saw me.
Wow.
Now, they weren't there for just that, but I happened to be there in their line of vision, and they go, oh, I know him. But 52, and I got to meet all kinds of kids and spouses and whatever, and now I'm over 65. Not I am, but there's over 65 alums that have come out, and you know, they're dragging their kids and all kinds of stuff.
That's wonderful.
It was. I mean, if there's anything I needed for affirmation, you know, that you kind of sort of made at least a little bit of difference in somebody's life. The stories that I was sitting back listening to, it was just, you could see that was some of the things that we got a chance to do together were among the highest parts of their education. So, thanks. I hope you get a chance to go to Decatur, but I'm not going anywhere. So if you have questions or want to see any of this stuff and you have the time, I also want to thank the people that brought the donuts.
Yes, thank you, Sandy and Doug. That is
Yes.
so nice of you.
That's not normal. So, yeah. But again, so I'm up here if you want to hit the lights. We can. But I have some stuff. I'll go. I never shut up. I'm a faculty, right? This was actually at Decatur as an indoor piece several years ago. The giant hermit crab. People say, "Oh, they really aren't that big, right?" Well, yes, that's true. They aren't that big, but I've seen them probably 2/3 that size in the Bahamas. And that is probably the most difficult piece I've ever carved, including that big stuff. That's all one piece. And there's 2 things that carvers will always stay away from. One is making coils, you know, anything that coils, because they use something called the Fibonacci number, even if they don't know that. And your brain immediately recognizes when they didn't do it right. So you stay away from coils. Well, that's coil. Thanks, Amanda. You stay away from coils, and then you also stay away from really deep recesses, because you know people go, oh, you must be. All right, anybody that's ever used a Dremel, I want you to show me a Dremel that can reach into there, because you can't.
Yeah.
I actually had to get Greg, right, to weld an additional length of shank on a couple of things I was willing to you know, sacrifice to do that, to get it long enough so that I could use the mallet and gouge to get that deep in there. But I felt it was needed to get that true depth.
What is that?
It's walnut also.
Is there any glue in it?
Not to the best of my knowledge, none. But also the 2 different colorations, that's just an artifact of the wood itself. Walnut is kind of chocolatey on the outside.
That's why walnut's so nice.
It's one of the reasons, that's for sure, but there are also a different density in those 2 colors. The outside wood is much less dense, so you got to treat it differently. The little woodland guardian that I have out here that's done, that's in mulberry. And it's also two-toned, and if you've ever cut a mulberry tree down, you'll know that when you hit it and cut it, it's bright yellow. It's as yellow as your mug. And then it oxidizes to this darker color, but still the outside stays light. So, you know, you try to realize that and then work it into the... So, all right, promise, shut up.
Oh, can I ask questions?
Oh yeah, it's open for questions.
Have you ever worked with cherry, Doc?
I have.
I have, and more than once. I'll be working on
Thank you
something.
guys.
I'll be working on something and I'll hit a sap pocket.
Hmm.
And have you ever had that experience?
I have.
It's,
And I can't tell you, how to get around it. But just when you talk about hitting things, I found bullets.
oh,
You know, like lead
Sure.
slugs that somebody deer hunted, or maybe, I don't know, maybe they were frustrated and didn't deer hunt it and shoot the tree. But I found, and the funny thing is, thanks Dennis, that the tree will actually try to absorb the lead, especially old bullets.
yeah.
And you'll find a big black spot with maybe a little bit of lead still in the middle, like the size of a BB.
Oh, boy.
But you really want to stay away from that like the plague, because it will ruin my gouges. My gouges are almost all 100 years old or more.
Oh, my.
And, you know, it's good Sheffield steel or German steel or Swiss steel, but they can't hold a candle to steel nails and crap like that that you might run into. So you have to be really careful. And I've ruined a lot. And they're about anywhere from $50 to $80 a piece. The other thing I'm really proud of, with the Best of Show, there's prize money with that. So if you're kind of curious, when a public art piece is out there, like we'll use Decatur, an outdoor piece, the big ones, they lease it for $1,200 a year. So I still own it, but they become the sales agent. So if it sells, they get a percentage, about 30%. If it doesn't sell when the year's over, I can shop it to any other of the, and they belong to consortiums of public art cities all around the United States, and they will submit it for me if I want it. And then if a city like, say, Sioux Falls, which is the pinnacle, whoever would thought, Sioux Falls is the highest people want to go to. Why? Because they pay the best. And they treat people like royalty. Oh my gosh, they put us up in a boutique hotel, you know, kind of like the Bradley down here. There's galas. I mean, you're there for 2 full nights. They pay you a little bit to travel, you know, to bring your pieces, because they want you there for the unveiling. And everybody wants to be there because it's just one big party atmosphere. But they do it right. They have a lot of that money from the oil shale and stuff that's there. So they've chosen to make it, you know, as an arts capital. And they do. So they even are the ones that administer a lot of that consortium of cities that are in that pool. But so that's how it works. So the walrus, and I'm not private about money. I never have been private about money. That walrus has already made me over $7,000, and I still own it.
Wow.
So, but I've had to work at it every time when it comes back. The worst one was they had it vandalized, and somebody decided that they wanted to try on the hat. I'm sure they were drunk or drugged or whatever, but you know, so it went hatless for a couple of months until I could have it sent to me, replace it, you know, repair it.
So you and Elmer fixed that?
No, I had to carve a new one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, yeah. I tried to repair what the guys did. You know, I assume it's guys. Usually it's, you know, dumb guys.
Is it Grand Rapids that has that big show?
Grand Rapids is a big art show, but I don't know that they have a real big, and I'm close to them now, so I'm definitely gonna be trying to find, you know, out. What's it? Yeah, it's really big, but it's a juried art show. It's not necessarily public art. There is a big place up in Michigan, just north of us, called Chelsea, that's got a wonderful public art program. Okay, any other questions? I mean, you're welcome to come up and ask more. Yeah, Steve?
Yeah, it sounds like you get your inspiration from a lot of different places, which is really neat. But in all your travels as a marine biologist and throughout your life, have you found any place that's especially inspirational for your art?
And when you ended it by saying for your art, it changed the answer, okay? I was fortunate enough to be a Fulbright scholar. If you know that it's an exchange program with the United States, and I was in New Zealand. And oddly enough, it's where I had already been as part of my research for my dissertation. And New Zealand is the most amazing place I've ever been in my life. And I was lucky enough not only to go to North and South Island, but to go down where you can only fly to Stewart Island, which is really pretty close to the Antarctic. And, you know, I got to see albatrosses and penguins and as an aside, no snakes, not into snakes. I had a visitor the other day greet me on the Marsh. I opened the barn door and there was a big black snake, you know, right at it, just sunny. I was trying to get the heat out of the cement. Yeah. So I told him, I know he doesn't speak English, but I said, you just stay right there. I'm going to open the barn doors and then move along, little doggy. And he just went, but he did stay, and I opened the barn doors, and then I used my cane to say, okay, this way, and he left, and I haven't seen him since.
I take it you've never carved a snake.
I have.
Have you?
I have, yeah. I carved a snake climbing up a walking stick like yours.
Yeah.
But Steve, I'll answer kind of with another thing. I just got back from Alaska less than a month ago, and it took me 44 years to get my 50th state. So I've been stuck on 49 for 44 years. And so my wife and I went up there on a cruise and a land thing, and we saw a bunch of humpback whales, and we saw a whole pod of orcas. And I've been kind of dabbling carving in pipestone, like the Native Americans did for their peace pipes. And I have a couple of fairly big pieces, and they've just been sitting there. They also been just sitting there with their price tags, you know, what I paid for them. Just a chunk of that is like almost $200. So you don't want to just willy-nilly gonna, but I was getting ready to pick out what I was gonna bring up here to show everybody, not here, but to the whole. And I had my 6-year-old granddaughter with me, which is normal. It's like Mutt and Jeff, you see us always together. And she had not seen my rock carving. Most of them are pretty small, but they're like this. I mean, they're more animals. And I had this chunk, and she goes, well, what's it look like before you do it? Okay, well, here's one. And so she started doing what I do, because she's seen me do this, okay? It's mimicry. So she set it one way, and then she set it on the other side, and she said, you know, just to see if she saw anything in there. And she set it one way, and then said, Doodad, which is what she calls me, I think I see a penguin. And I could see how she could see that. But immediately, as soon as she said, I think I see a penguin, I took the piece, set it on its side, and I see a humpback whale. So very soon, sometime this winter, I will make the attempt of carving that into a humpback whale. I did a lot of wilderness backpacking, and so I've carved a fair number of like bears and things like that. So yeah, I do get inspiration from all of it, but sometimes I can't tell you specifically this is why I did this. Sometimes I'll have a piece of wood that is just, I don't know if you can see it, but that's what the piece of wood looked like when I picked it up to bring it here. And I could see that it would be okay to make a turtle out of it. Okay? So I guess there's that connect. But I didn't see a turtle in it, if that makes sense. I knew I wanted to do the turtles to kind of honor Allie. But so I just went out and started looking through my big pile. And I also knew pretty much that I wanted to do them out of walnut, because the turtles that I have over at Eagle Marsh right now, if you come over and see them, there's some of them that are walnut, and not necessarily the art, but the wood is drop dead gorgeous. And these are some beautiful pieces of hardwood. I started a muskrat the other day for Barnard Fest, just because I could do a mindless part of it. So many people were coming in, and there's almost 4,000 people there, we think. So I was doing a lot more talking than hitting, and I didn't want to bombard people as they walked by with ships, because they fly. And a lady, I shouldn't tell this, should I? A lady came up and said, what's it going to be? And I said, you know, it's going to be a muskrat. And I showed her my chalk side of it where I mocked it up. And she goes, wow, that's really cool. When you get done, I'd pay you $50 for that. And God bless him. And I'll say the name because you may even know this person. He teaches at New Tech. He's a former student of mine out of Wayne. Eric Toy was right there. And he goes, well, you know, my dad works in some of that kind of stuff. And that piece of wood, before Doc ever made a strike on it, is $65 to $70. I did not buy it. I mean, somebody gave it. But it is, as this, just a drop dead. You can't find it. I mean, it would be $65 or $70 if you could find it. With all the interest now in cabinet making and stuff like that and turning wood, it's hard to find big, really dry pieces. My piece is, you know, a tree that's cut. It has to be down and dead and in my barn with the bark taken off and the ends with latex paint on it. Crummy, cheap latex paint. And then I wrap it loosely in saran wrap or whatever, and I put it in it has to be there a year for every inch diameter before I can even think about carving it. Because as soon as I start releasing all that pressure from the sides, it wants to twist or split.
It'll split.
Both of which are not good.
Yeah, so much of the stuff you get today isn't dried properly.
No, it's no. So anyway, any more questions?
What kind of wood is the snapper?
It's poplar. And boy, I tell you, Allie and anybody else that's been out, you can smell poplar.
It's funky.
It's funky in a not really good way. So not only is it a softwood that requires ultra sharp, and that's a weird thing too. I have to have sharper tools to work on a mildly softer wood than I do my hardwood. The hardwood, I can make it shine just by brute force. You know, softwood, it'll pinch and catch, and okay, these are things you're not supposed to know. So if you look at the shell really carefully, there's a piece right over here on the right-hand side. It's not been glued because it came off and I thought, okay, I could pick it up. I even asked Allie if she had some glue. It didn't stay.
Oh.
You gave me school glue.
You said that would be all right.
I did think it would be all right. It wasn't. But it's got a little indent here. So yesterday, one of these younger kids came up and looked at it and they go, I love it. And what happened to its shell? And I go, I don't really know. I'm just the carver. And they said, I think when it was a baby, it probably got eaten or maybe hit by something. And I said, you know, I don't know of hardly any animals, including me, that are perfect. That may be what had happened. And I said, but I don't really know. But let's use that story and we're going to stick to it.